Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar. We've started the meeting a bit early. We'll wait for 1 more minute and then give other folks to join and then we'll start. Hope you all are doing well with the things that you with your day jobs. I know with Oracle HCM specifically, Redwood had a huge impact. So that's the reason we wanted to have these sessions. I think we're up already at the hour. Let me go ahead and get started then. Um, Thank you everyone for joining. This is going to be a series of webinars that we're going to do for Redwood, specific to Redwood. Today we're going to cover core HR, absence, payroll, and OTL module, and specifically for all the 24A upgrades that we have received from Oracle. It's not just the Redwood updates that we have received, but this particular webinar is going to be focused on the Redwood update. Okay. So let me just give a quick introduction about me and then I'll ask Saksham to go ahead. So my name is Murtuza. I have been working with Mastek since a long time and I'm currently working as the HCM Senior Solution Architect, HCM Solution Lead for Mastek. Okay. I know that I have worked with some of you already. So thank you, and I'll be the host of this particular webinar where I'll walk you through the initial couple of slides and then I'll switch it back to Saksham. So over to you, Saksham. Can you give a brief introduction about yourself?
Thank you, Murtaza. Very good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending on whichever part of the world you're tuning in from. My name is Saksham Srivastav. I've been with Mastek for almost 5 years now. I work as a senior consultant for human capital management, and very glad that you're all here and want to go along with us on this Redwood journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Saksham. And moving to the actual content. So the agenda for today is first we want to give you the background of what Redwood UI is. You might have some of you might have already heard about it, attended Oracle sessions and things like that. This is a new user interface that Oracle is bringing up, and it's more than that. Let me tell you. So we'll see what the background of Redwood is, where we are, or where Oracle is in terms of Redwood, what to expect from Redwood and when to expect it. So Oracle has given us their plan. We'll talk about that in more detail. Sample impact assessment. We will also talk about the impact assessment for all the 4 modules that we're going to cover. There are more webinars coming up tomorrow and day after for the other modules, but today we are going to do it for core HR, absence, payroll, and OTL. So we'll see what the impact assessment look like, and then we'll also let you know what the Mastek plan is for this Redwood transformation. Okay. Last but not the least is going to be Q&A, but I would suggest you all, if you have a question, please go ahead and put it on the Q&A section that you see on the top of your screen, and we or someone from our panel would be able to answer you. Okay. So Redwood adoption. So first of all, we want to understand what is Redwood UI, okay, or UX. There are multiple terminologies that are being used for Redwood. It's a new user interface that will replace your current responsive UI. Okay, so currently, if you are already using Oracle, you would be on the responsive UI for sure. And this is the similar journey as we had it from classic UI to responsive UI. So we, as a Mastek organization, we have done this multiple times with Oracle changing their UI in times. So this is one other UI that Oracle is switching from responsive UI to the Redwood UI. That's one parameter. Redwood also is going to change some of the processes, some of the interactions with your employees, managers, and making it more intuitive, less number of clicks, more user responsive. So the responsive UI itself was brought in so that Oracle can be responsive in terms of, let's say, if they want to use it on your tablets, if you want to use it on your mobile phones, you were anyways currently do that, but Redwood is going to enhance that experience overall. Okay. And it touches all the interactions that you have when it comes to customers like yourself, partners like ourselves, and all the end users who are actually using the application. So that is your employees, managers, admins, payroll team, your time administrator, your learners, your learning administrator. Everyone is going to be impacted by this. So that's why for HCM, it's impacting more to the end user as compared to, for an example, supply chain or ERP and things like that. So that's why we have a robust plan in alignment to what Oracle is going to do for Redwood. We Mastek is also going to give that leverage to our customers on how we are going to transform their journey from responsive UI to the Redwood UI. And trust me, it's going to bring a lot of new things to the overall experience, and we are going to talk about that in a bit. So why adopt Redwood UI? Of course, there would be question, if things are working for you, why put in extra effort and try to see if it breaks or not? Okay, so that's not the aim. It is always to enhance the experience. Okay, initially it might be very time consuming. It might take some efforts from the partners like us, from the customers like yours, and it would need that, but the end result is something that everyone is going to like. Okay, so first of all, it does, it currently your journeys screen is already Redwood. So if you'll see, the journeys UI and the other application UI is not in sync. This is going to give a unified experience across all the modules. So you'd have Redwood across all the modules, right? Very user friendly, very intuitive, self learning in various ways. And as I've said, it reduces the number of clicks, which again was an issue in classic UI, is an issue in responsive UI, but the Redwood UI is going to solve that. Okay. Now Oracle, with its AI investments, is going to bring a lot of new AI features with Gen AI coming up, with the digital assistants getting interacted with the Gen AI. A lot of Gen AI features or embedded AI features are going to work only in Redwood. Okay, so this is something that we have to enable in some of the pages. We have to enable Redwood for the Gen AI to work properly. Okay, some of the changes in the nudges that they're going to bring. The next action plan from Oracle is all keeping in mind that the customer is already on Redwood. Okay, journey is already in Redwood, but they're bringing more new changes in journeys, which is going to be useful for everyone. Okay, and the business rule framework is something that is going to be used to do the customizations that you currently have. How the autocomplete rules, how the page composer and everything is going to work is something that will be driven from the business rule framework. So we'll talk about that as well. So this is the package what we are going to get from the Redwood. And just to give you an idea, Oracle is launching a new module altogether for workforce scheduling, and that particular module is works really well with Redwood, because that is designed in a way that it operates really well when your other modules like time and labor, absences are already in Redwood. So the transition plan from Oracle is clear that going forward, everyone has to move to Redwood. So it can be delayed, but it is not inevitable. So you have to go ahead and do that. Okay. Now, this is the roadmap that we have received from Oracle. Okay, this is all the information that you see right now is all based on the release notes from Oracle. in a simplified way. So our ways just to make you comfortable, because Oracle would give you notes which some of you might not be able to understand because it's very technical in some ways. So this is a simplified version of it. Okay. So for each release, now Oracle is going to release some of the pages in Redwood. Okay. That's the bottom line. And by 25A, all the ESS and MSS pages will be delivered in Redwood, and everyone will have to move their ESS and MSS pages to Redwood by 25A. Okay. And the timeline is also, we're going to discuss when is 25A coming across and things like that for you. Okay. However, in this journey, let's say there are certain intervals like 24B, there would be more Redwood pages which will be delivered. There are certain mandatory steps that you have to take, like learn management would go, has to be mandatory at a certain phase. Then time and labor has to be mandatory, moved to Redwood in certain phases and things like that. So Oracle has published some information, but with every release, they're going to bring in more changes, more Redwood enabled pages that we have to transition and go forward with. Okay, this is just a high level picturization of how the Redwood roadmap would look like for from the Oracle's point of view. Okay. So let me just zoom in a bit. I think if you have attended Oracle's session, for sure you might have seen this slide. So we're not going to focus on this particular slide because it talks about when are these releases going to come, release 24B, release 24C, and things like that. And by 25 B is when we have to make sure that we are back. Okay, but the simplified version of it, just give me a second. Okay, so that simplified version is over here. So by 24A, at the end of 24A, whenever you're going to get release, learn self-service. So that means will the pages for learn self-service, your ESS MSS pages, there are certain adoption plan for it, and so those are already given. So the profile option for 20 for those pages for 24A is already available. Okay, and you might have seen it. You might have, some of you might have already enabled it also. Okay, what Oracle is also saying that any newly provisioned pod. So if you are a new Oracle customer and you are going to provision your new pods, it will be Redwood enabled. So the features that they've received, that they've enabled so far would be enabled by default into Redwood, and it will be monitored. So that is for 24A. Okay. Now, for 24B, the mandatory is that your learn self-service for learners and managers must be in Redwood. If not, Oracle is by default going to turn that on and you will not be able to turn it back. So that's for only learning self-service learners and managers. It is not for the learning administrator yet, but this is the information that we have received. Okay. Checklists, I know a lot of you would be already using journeys, but if you're still using checklist or the legacy onboarding functionality, then you have to move to journeys by 2040. So that's by 2040, we can look in the timelines. There will be more features for ESS MSS also available in 24D, and your time and labor will transition. So your time cards basically will transition to 24D. So that's the deadline again from Oracle, saying that on 24B, learning self-service learners would be turned into Redwood. Your time and labor would be turned into 24D into Redwood. And all the other MSS CSS pages would be turned into Redwood by 25B. Okay, sorry, I said 25A earlier. 25B is when all your ESS MSS should be in Redwood. So these are certain timeline which is released by Oracle, but I would say there is more to come on this. With every release note, Oracle is releasing other announcements, and as and when we receive those, we will translate that to you. Okay, so this is in a simplified way. We just wanted you to understand what are the key items that you should focus when you are planning your transformation process, Redwood transformation process. Moving ahead, Personalizations. Now, I know a lot of you have already attended Oracle sessions and things like that. So, along with Redwood, Visual Builder Studio is coming up, which is going to be a new way of personalization. Okay. If you remember earlier from Classic, when we were moving from Classic UI to the responsive UI, Transaction Design Studio was introduced and autocomplete rules were introduced by Oracle, which were different ways of doing personalization in responsive UI. Now, all those ways of personalization is going to be replaced by the VBS, that is Visual Builder Studio business rules. So as you can see, your page personalizations, your transaction design studio, any customizations that you have done using transaction design studios, any default or validation rules, any other autocomplete rules. So any of these customizations has to be done using the VBS business rules. So this is something again with all the UI that Oracle brings up, they come up with a new way of doing the personalization, and this is the new way of doing the personalization. Okay, so approvals and notifications are to be revisited and retested for respective modules. So what Oracle is saying is, during when you are doing the impact analysis and when you are at the planning phase, you should make sure that all your approvals and notifications after you have turned into Redwood should work and is retested. This is what impact it's going to cause is something that we will know when we'll go into the testing mode and the impact analysis mode. Okay, so this is the slide specifically that we wanted to keep for personalizations, because again we have received a lot of concerns from our customers where they are concerned like what would happen to their customizations and things like that. So this is just to give you an idea from a technical perspective how that is going to look for you. Okay. Now it's quick time to do a quick poll so that we know you better on your plan, on your strategy for this Redwood transformation. Akanksha, can you just do a quick poll? Yeah. So everyone, please participate on this. You would see a poll, and you just select the option that you see it on the poll. It would, yeah. Now you can see it. So just we wanted to understand at which stage are you in the Redwood transformation process? Basically, have you started it, not started it? Are you at the impact analysis planning phase with us, with your partner? Are you at the non-prod testing phase, or you have started moving to production? Things are already moving to production for you. So that is the partial production deployment. So we'll just give you 15, 20 seconds more, and then we'll switch back. I'll also put my poll. Perfect. Okay. So now I will hand it over to Saksham. Saksham, over to you.
Thank you, Murtaza. All right, everyone. The very first thing we are going to look at, as Mutha mentioned, like he gave a brief roadmap on what is Redwood, so on and so forth, right? Now, what we are going to do, we are going to look at some of the features which were released as part of 24A, which was the last quarterly upgrade. Some of you might already have it on your environment. And we are going to look at what those features brought in. And right now, our focus is going to be specifically on features which are pertaining to, Redwood UI. Okay. So let's start with core HR and absence. The very first feature we're going to talk about is embedded application tasks region in journey tasks. So Oracle has made it easier to complete application tasks and also reduce the navigation. As Murtaza was talking about earlier, right? With Redwood, you will have lesser number of clicks, a better user experience, so on and so forth. So this is one of the features which does that. It has a very low impact level because there is nothing else which is going to be impacted by enabling this. You will be getting this by default in your environment. It's a quick win. All you have to do is you have to go ahead and configure a task for yourself, and then It will be available to your end users or your employees, for example, while they are doing their onboarding, they will have those tasks available. So if you look at the screen right now, some of you might already be aware of this particular page as admins. When you're configuring a task for example, journeys, you have a task type option. So over here, you'll have a new option called embedded application task. And then you can select something. For example, I selected, created a task and selected address over here as the option, okay? Now, when an end user goes into the system, if you see on my screen, they will have an address button over here. They can just click on this button and enter their address. Earlier, what used to happen if we created application tasks, people had to click on something like go to application task over here. A new window used to open up, and then they were supposed to enter the details. After they entered the details, they had to navigate back to the screen, click on done. So basically, what Oracle is trying to do is trying to reduce the number of navigations, number of clicks a person has to do in the user interface now. Moving on to the next feature. Now, Redwood has support for application tasks in journeys also. So let's suppose you have a couple of tasks which have been enabled in the Redwood UI. For example, in my screen, if you see, I've created an application task for document records. Okay. And the document records page in your environment, you have enabled it, let's suppose, to be on the Redwood UI. So when you are using the journeys and you click on this go to application task icon over here, what happens is that the document records Redwood page opens up. Again, there is not much impact over here. There is no need to enable anything, no configuration required. All you need to do is if you are using journeys, you can go ahead in the system and create a task and check it out. The next feature is control display of contact us section in assigned journeys. So for those of you who have seen worked on journeys before, you must be aware that there is a contact us section. If you see on my screen on this image on the bottom right, where people can see the different representatives, line managers, so on and so forth while performing their journeys. So now you have a better control on whom you want to show this section, or if you want to hide this section from some of the users, you can do that too. So for example, I do not want my line managers to have access to the contact us section. I can do that. While configuring my journey task, I can go into the system in something called display settings if you see on the screen. And what I will do, I will just maybe hide it for line manager, initiator, whatever I want to do, I can hide it from there. And when that end user logs into the environment again, at the bottom right, if you see the contact us section is no longer visible. So this feature, it has a very low impact because it's not really going to impact anything else you have configured in the environment. There is nothing you need to really enable for it. There is no configuration required. All you need to do is if you want to hide the section, you have to go into the admin page for checklist, and from the display settings, you can turn it off. So again, this is a quick win for us. If we want to use this, if you want to hide the contact us section from any of the users, you can easily do that in the environment now. Moving on, the next feature we have is edit journey task from the My Task tab. So if you go to the My Task tab in the environment now, if you see on my screen, there's an edit task button you can have on the journey task. You can click on that edit task button and you can change or edit the task, whatever changes you want to do from there itself. So you don't have to, you know, navigate multiple times. You can easily do it just from the My Task section itself now. For example, earlier you might be navigating to the assigned journey page just to make these changes. Now it's easier for us to do it just from the My Task tab. So for example, if you see, you click on that edit task button, and after that, the hire checklist opens up. You can make whatever changes you want to make. And after you have made those changes, you can save those and move forward. Again, a low impact change. There is nothing you need to really enable to get this feature in your environment. All you have to do if you really want to utilize it, you have to, start using it basically. The next feature we are going to look at is limit the journey task expiry duration. So till now, if you want to set the expiry date for you while creating a journey task, you want to set the expiry date, or while creating even a checklist task, you want to set an expiry date. There is no validation or no limits over there, okay? But now it is going to be limited to a maximum of 365 days. So basically, this validation is being enforced by Oracle so that you don't really have tasks which are just lingering around in the system and staying open for a very, very long duration. Okay. So, for example, if you see on my screen, if we try to set an expiry of 500 days, that's a number over there. It will throw an error saying, hey, you have to enter a value between 1 and 365 only. Similarly, if you are creating a journey, again, if you see the section on my screen after how many days, basically the expiry date when you are setting it up, you cannot really use 500 over there. You will have to set up a value between 1 and 365. 365 being basically a year. We're not counting leap years here, so that's there. The next feature is going to be improved search behavior on Explore and Activity Journey tabs. So for example, if you see on my screen, on the Explore section, of journeys, you have a category filter drop down now. So you can basically, based on the category, you can filter what journeys you really want to see on the Explore tab. Similarly, if we navigate a bit further on this slide, you can see this is how the activity tabs look like. And over here, you can basically now filter it, for example, based on status. On the activity tab, I just want to see all the pending task, for example. I can do that. I would just want to see maybe the ones in errors. Those kind of things we can do from the activity tab now. Again, a low impact feature. There's nothing you really need to enable. As long as you are using journeys, it's there for you to utilize. And it's a quick win feature for us. Okay, moving on, the next feature we are going to look at is the Redwood mass download document of records, basically using filtered list. So if you have enabled the Redwood page for mass download document records, so that feature has been available. I think it was there in our responsive UI also, where from there you can basically download the document records. For example, you want to download DORs for everyone in a specific business unit at a specific job, for example. That feature was available. So now that has been revamped and brought into the Oracle Redwood UI also. And over here, you can use something called filtered list. So basically what you will do, you create a filtered list. Over there, you define, okay, I want to download document records for everyone in my company at in this particular department, for example, okay. And after you have created that filtered list, you have to select, okay, this filtered list can be used for downloading document records also. There's a subscriber section over there you have to select. And then when you navigate to your mass download of document records page, in this list of person um, column you see on the screen, you can select that filtered list from there. And based on that, you can download the document records. Again, a low impact feature, nothing you have to really enable. As long as you're using this feature and you are on basically on using the Redwood page for it, you can go ahead and use this. Okay. Now, the next feature is that what Oracle has done in the Redwood UI, basically, they have moved the business unit as well as the position attributes. They have moved it back to the when and why section, which is basically the very first section when you are doing a transaction. So, for example, you are in HR, you are a manager, and you want to select a BU and its associated position. You can do it directly in the when and why section itself if you want. You don't really have to wait for going to the assignment step and then making that selection. As long as you're using Redwood, as long as your environment has been, you have the Redwood pages enabled. For example, for the change assignment page, this feature will be available for you. There is no high impact of this feature. There's nothing you really need to enable or configure as long as Redwood is set up on your environment based on your needs, so on and so forth. It's a quick win for you. Okay. The next feature we are going to look at is the position override step in the Redwood employment process. So in the Redwood employment process, we can select, business unit position relevant to that BU. And once we do that, there's a position override step is displayed. So if you see on my screen right now, there's a position override step which has been displayed. So it basically gives your line managers or HR specialists the ability to update position details in the assignment with latest values as per the business needs. Again, if you're on Redwood, this is a very quick win for you. If you're not, once you transition to Redwood UI, you'll be able to use this feature seamlessly, and you will have this position override page basically kind of available to you on the UI. Okay. The next feature we're going to look at is the employment contract in Redwood employment update process. So we can now enter the contract info step to either correct contract, or if you want to extend it, add some date effective update, anything you can do so from the Redwood UI it's also now. Now, one thing to note over here, if you have selected a date which is +1 basically of the contract end date, only then you are going to be allowed to extend the contract. So if you see on my screen right now we are using basically the promote action in the screenshot you see on the screen. So over there you have the contract info section. You can make changes as per your needs over there, and HR or line managers, whoever have to do whatever changes, whether you want to correct it, extend it, so on and so forth. You can make the changes and then you can submit your transaction. Now this feature again is a low impact feature. There's nothing you really need to enable. Basically, if you are on Redwood, you can be using this as a quick win for you, and all you have to do is basically test it out on your non-production and then seamlessly move to production along with this feature. Okay, payroll step in Redwood employment update process. So now we can update the payroll information in the newly added, this is a newly added section basically, payroll detail step. For example, if you're doing an add assignment transaction, or if you're doing a change assignment, promotion, transfer. So basically what this feature gives is you in the Redwood interface, you have an ability to basically, for example, if you see on my screen, you can select the payroll frequency while doing the transaction. You can select whether time card is required, so on and so forth on this particular section of the transaction now. The next feature basically we're going to look at is the areas of responsibility in the Redwood employment upgrade processes. So for example, if you will see on my screen, when you're doing a change assignment transaction, for example, okay, at the very bottom, if you see on the right side over there on the screenshot, there's a need help contact us section over there. So let's suppose you have representative setup. For example, on my screen, you see for this particular person, there's a benefits representative setup. There might be other representatives depending on your business requirements. You might have an HR representative, you might have some other representative setup. So while you are doing the transaction, people can actually view this data, and if they require any assistance, they require some help, they can reach out to these people. It's a low impact feature. There's nothing you really need to enable. As long as you are utilizing Redwood, you are on the Redwood UI, it's a quick win for you. You can go ahead and use this feature. Okay. The next we are going to look at is the Redwood experience for deleting employment details. Okay. So now the delete employment details is developed using the Redwood toolset. So if you see on my screen, I'm on an assignment change page or the employment info page. From there, I can go here, for example, and I want to delete the changes which is there. For example, I want to delete some of the assignment details, something like that. I have the option to do that, and this page has been redefined, redeveloped in the Redwood user experience. So it offers you a more modern look and feel. I think what we classify this look and feel is something like consumer grade plus, basically. So this kind of look and feel is like how you expect your apps on your phone today to work, something like that. For example, if you log into Instagram, there's a specific UI. So this is more up to date. This UI is more up to today's requirements and such. And again, one of the things is that it will be requiring fewer number of clicks. It has a more user friendly. It is better to utilize. So if you are on the Redwood user interface already, it's going to be very easy for you. It's a quick win for you. You can enable and check this out for your environment. If you're not, once you transition to Redwood, these pages will be available, and then you can utilize them and use them as per your business needs. The next feature is additional assignment info available in Redwood employment info page. So let's suppose you have configured some extensible flex fields, or as we call them, EFFs. So when you are, for example, in the employment info tab on the Redwood UI, at the bottom you can see, okay, additional employment assignment info section over there. And from there, you can view the different extensible flex fields, EFF, so on and so forth. So this basically gives the HR or the managers, depending on where you have this enabled, and you are on Redwood, the ability to see the EFFs directly on the transaction page itself, basically for employment info. Again, the impact is not very high. Reason being, um, you're not really, doing something new altogether. This is basically what a user interface change. The look and feel is different over here, but at the end of the day, it's not going to impact any of your existing functionalities. Uh, the only thing you'll have to maybe take into account when transformation along these lines for these pages is going to be you have to look at whatever page customizations you have done or whatever autocompletes you have done, those things are working fine or not, those kind of things. The next feature is add multiple addresses for a person on the new person pages. So let's suppose you are hiring an employee or you are adding a contingent worker in your environment or a non-worker or pending worker. You actually, in the Redwood page, you have an option to enter multiple addresses. If you see on my screen right now, there's an address section over there. You can click over there, enter the address details, and move forward in the transaction. If you want to add multiple different types of addresses, you can do that also from the, Redwood user interface. This page is, one of the major business benefits basically of this is that the first of all, the user experience is better because it is more in line with today's requirements when it comes to how we want the sites to look, how we want the apps to look. It's more in line with those, and also it offers better experience. So all in all, the package is very good for end users. Okay. The next feature we are going to look at is the Redwood experience for person name formats. So the person name format page, some of you might have looked at it from an admin level, some of you might not have, depending on your day-to-day job, basically. So this page has been revamped basically in the Redwood user interface now. So if you have this enabled on your environment, the Redwood, you are using the Redwood user interface. This is how the page is going to look like for you now. And again, it offers, basically you have to do fewer clicks to make the changes. It has better performance. And also these new flows, they have a more cohesiveness with the application because you're slowly gradually moving to a standard UI basically for the whole environment. The next feature we're going to look at is the incumbent section in the Redwood position edit pages. So for example, when you are going in the system, you want to edit a position, for example, okay, or you want to correct a position. So over here, if you see, you can see the incumbents here and then on the Redwood page. So it helps you take more informed decisions. So it's a while you are making changes to a position, okay, this is what the current incumbents look like. Okay, should I make changes? Should I go back to someone and talk about it? That it makes your day-to-day job easier, basically, if you are on Redwood and using these pages. So if you see on my screen right now, for example, we have opened the job space. Similarly, it happens for departments, grades, so on and so forth. What this feature does is if you see there is a download icon on the right side of the screenshot. So let's suppose I want to download all the search results into an Excel file. I can do that directly from the Redwood UI. It's very seamless. It looks very neat. And it can help you in making more informed decisions. Okay, I've downloaded Excel. Okay, these many departments I have, these jobs I have, I want to make these changes. It helps you a lot in these kind of scenarios. The next feature we are going to look at is a new process which is just for Redwood, basically the promote and change position process. So what it does is basically in the same transaction, you can change the position, you can change the assignment, you can change the salary, you can change the payroll details, all of that in basically a single transaction. So if you see on my screen right now, we have the promote and change position page opened up. If we go to move forward in the when and why section, you can select, okay, I want to maybe move to some other position. Then you have the option to change the position itself. You have the option to change the payroll details and all of that in the same transaction. Okay. Moving on, the next page, basically what we have is basically the more, I can say more user-friendly and Redwood page for absence entries. So, for example, you are an end user and you want to enter an absence for yourself. You can go into the system and enter that in the Redwood user interface now. So this page is basically now available in Redwood also. So it provides a better user experience, and basically it is more in line with today's requirements, today's how today's world works, basically how we want the user interfaces or how we want our environment to look like. Because at the end of the day, the end result or the end aim for everyone over here is going to be, we want to build a system, we want to have a system which is more user friendly for our end users, right? On this screen, if you see, we have listed down a couple of the pages which have already been moved to Redwood. So if you want to, for example, change the employment page, look at the employment info page on Redwood that was already done back in 23B, you have an option to go back and look at this list and maybe check those out on your environment if not already done. Similarly, for the next slide also, over here we have listed down some of the features or some of the pages in Oracle which have already basically been moved to Redwood UI. Okay, we'll take a very short pause over here for around 30 to 40 seconds. Akansha, if you can please start the next poll. All right, I think we're good to move forward. I hope all of you responded to the questions on the polls and gave us your valuable feedback, that because that helps us a lot, okay? Okay. Now, till now, we have looked at the new features basically for core HR and absence. Now we are going to transition to global payroll and OTL, or what is called as time and labor. Okay. The very first feature is basically in the payslip section under me. Basically, you have the option now to view bar charts of the last four payslips. So again, low impact level, a user interface change where the UI has changed. There's nothing you really need to enable. As long as you are on Redwood and using these features, you can see this on your environment live. If not, if you're planning to slowly and gradually transition to Redwood, you will be able to review these on your environments then when you plan to, your transition. Okay. Next feature is Redwood experience for personal payment methods for self-service users. So basically for this, if for those of you who have used classic UI and even responsive UI, you must have seen that personal payment methods page which we utilized, where we entered the, for example, the type, where it's a check, bank details, so on and so forth, right? So that page has basically been revamped into the Redwood user interface. Yes, there is. You will have to enable this one specifically. There is certain configurations you'll also have to do, and since the number configuration and the enablement you have to do for it, it is minimal. There is not it. You can classify this as a quick win. You don't really have to go into too much work just to get this ready. So some of the things which this new page in Redwood offers, basically you have an overview of the payment method in a card kind of layout. Basically, you have the ability now to create the payment method as well as the associated bank account in the same transaction. So if you want to reorder the payment methods, you can do those very seamlessly now. Okay. The next change we are going to talk about, or the next feature we are going to talk about, is the Redwood experience for balance by date. So basically, the balance by date, it displays balances, for an effective date, whether it is month to date, period to date balance, or if you want to look at the quarter to or YTD balance, so on and so forth. So now this particular entire experience is also revamped and available in the Redwood user interface. So if you want, you can use, the new page gives you option, for example, to include zero balances, option to exclude zero balances, view process information like calculation breakdowns, tax reporting units, payroll, so on and so forth, and even the balance dimensions and employment level balances, all of that on a new revamped user interface, which is the Redwood user interface rather than the older interfaces. Again, in this particular scenario, yes, there is a minimal configuration you'll have to do. There are changes you'll have to do. It needs to be enabled. But at the end of the day, since the changes are not that big, it's basically a quick win. If you want to utilize it, you can utilize it quite easily on your environments. The next slide we are going to look at is the Redwood experience for run result, basically. So again, the run results page, it has been moved to the Redwood UI. It's more of an admin kind of page. So for example, if you have been a payroll admin for a company, you might have visited this page. Uh, with this page, you can easily, quickly manage the calculated run results, payroll, quick pay processes, so on and so forth. It's more intuitive, it's more user friendly, it's more in line with today's requirements when it comes to what people want to look at when they want to see a user interface in front of them. So for example, in this page, you have the process field to view calculated run results. You can view the statement of earnings tab on the page, so on and so forth, all together nicely on the Redwood user interface now. On my screen, I'm sharing the image over here. This is how the page looks like actually. So if you see, you have the element name, primary classification, value, so on and so forth, and in the run result details. Okay. The next page we are going to look at, this is more specific to Oracle time and labor actually. So as a manager or a line manager basically, or as a time and labor manager, you want to review or approve time cards, so on and so forth. So that page is now available in the Redwood user interface. It has a low impact level because at the end of the day, you are changing the user interface. Um, but you'd still have to enable it. There are minor configurations you might have to do for this. And there are at the end of the day, since the configurations are not that significant, it's very quick win for you. So if we look at my screen now, there is a screenshot over here which shows a team change request page in the Redwood user interface. On this page, you can see the status, the employee name, the date they requested it, the request type, applies to request attribute, so on and so forth. Again, over here we have listed some of the global payroll and OTL features basically, which are already available in Redwood. So in case you want to go back and look at those on your environment or enable and check those on your environments, that's an option for you. Or if you want us as Mastek to assist you with that, we're there to help you out. Okay. With that being said, thank you so much for listening to all of that, everyone, and thank you so much for your time. I will transition this over to Murtaza, and Murtaza, you can take it forward from here.
Thanks, Saksham. Thank you very much. So this is the plan, the Redwood plan that we wanted to discuss with you, which is based on our experience with Redwood, based on our understanding of what Oracle's plan is as well. I'll just from a response on the first question that we asked, the first poll that we did, on how prepared are you for this Redwood transformation process, or where are you in the stage? So we got the response on from you. Thanks for that. So 43% of you are still at the not started phase, and then 28% is at the planning and impact analysis. The rest are on the non-prod testing and partial production deployment. So that's good. However, this what we have to do now, if you have not started, again, as I've mentioned, this is the change that we all have to go through. Mastic is doing it for all the customers that we have, and even this is going to need an initial effort from the customer's end. Um, so what we this is what our plan is. It cannot be done directly on production for sure, because some of you have on the questions and answers window have had you guys have started moving it, and it is giving you errors. So that is what we have also faced. So our analysis, our first stage should be that we have to do a detailed impact analysis of Redwood, enable it on non-prod environment, see what the impact is, how many customizations that we might have to redo, how many integrations reports that we have to test, and things like that. And then your planning and change management, which also would be an important phase, considering that this is going to impact your end user experience. So in certain stages you might want to redo the trainings, you might want to update your user manuals and things like that. There has to be a proper communication of change management communication that needs to go out. And from a planning perspective, based on the modules, based on the regions that you are in, based on the countries that you are in, you have to prepare a plan on what needs to be done, what module should go first, and this should be aligned with Oracle plan for sure, because Oracle is planning to make sure learning is mandatory. So to go for learning first, then they are saying that no, OTL should go next, and then so on and so forth, right? So we help our customers to prepare that plan as well, and then based on that we initiate the project transition. So project transition as in transition from responsive UI to the Redwood UI for sure. We do it on non-prod environment, do the unit testing, test all the processes, reports, interfaces. Some of the questions were related to, is it going to impact the interfaces? Ideally no, but we don't take chances when interfaces are concerned, when business processes are concerned, right? So what we do is we do a thorough testing of the entire system end to end. If it is payroll, do the payroll runs and make sure that it is generating correct outputs, and then release it. Even we'll ask the business users to test it from their side as well, and then move those to production. So this is our three-phase transformation process: impact analysis, planning and change management, and deployment, right? So I think with that, I'll just take a pause, and our next section is all Q&A. Okay, so some of the answers we've already done, and I know that some of you are not able to access the Q&A section. If not, please feel free to add your questions on the chat window, and we'll be able to answer it from there. So let me just go through the Q&A window and see if there are any other questions. Will you share this slide with us? Yes, we will share the slide with you guys. Okay. I don't know if some of you are not able to access the Q&A section. There are questions, and I can read basically. If I'm not getting other questions, I can take this time to read those questions. It may be relevant to others as well. So will the name change format have an impact on technical fields, as in the backend fields? So our recommendation here would be, even though ideally it should not, because it's just a UI change, but with responsive UI, we have had this experience that some of the interfaces or report might not work as intended. So our recommendation is change the Redwood profile option, make sure the interfaces are tested on the non-prod environment, the end-to-end interface, and then move it to production. Even though we take an assumption that interface and reports might not work, but our recommendation would be to go through that approach only: impact analysis, your change management and planning phase, non-prod environment, and then prod environment. Okay. Um, there was one question related to issues that, from an OTL perspective, there are issues in approvals, and some of the conditions are not working as expected. Here, our suggestion would be, first, you see if there are any personalizations or done on that particular page. Remove those personalizations. Try to test it without that. And even after that, it is not working. connect one with Mastek, if we are your partner. If not, connect with your partner. You let us know if you want our help. And still, if you want to go ahead and do it yourself, we recommend to do raise an SR with Oracle, get their recommendation on these issues, because we from our customers have also faced certain known issues. We have the repository of the known issues that we are facing, and we are consulting with the customers that we are working with on how that particular known issues list can help them. Okay. Um, one good question was, will we be covering the HCM chatbot AI topics or not? For these three sessions is purely dedicated to 24A upgrades on Redwood and what Redwood is all about. We have been talking about Redwood since a long time, and we want to have that clarity between the customers and the partners that this is what Redwood is. So it is purely dedicated to Redwood. However, let's say in 24BC, if Oracle is coming up with any updates to the chatbot, which is chatbot AI, which is going to impact Redwood, then we will cover those updates. For now, in 24A, we did not see any of those. So that's why we have not covered, we are not going to cover the HCM chatbot AI. But we do this very often for all the quarters. And I think most of you are part of those calls, and the webinars that we do for quarterly upgrades are all dedicated to all the features, not just Redwood. And that is what we are going to continue. So please do register for those webinars as well, because that is going to be very informative. And now, if you have attended this, it will be very relatable for you to understand the other updates, even related to Redwood UI. Okay. Just checking if there are any questions, any other questions. No. Yeah, we'll just give some more time just to see if you guys have any question. Please go ahead and add it on the chat in the Q&A section. Anything that you want to know about. So one thing that based on the responses that we have received, so let's categorize it that way. Okay, for the ones who have not started yet, please start the impact analysis. If you are working with us, please raise the ServiceNow ticket. We can start working on this. This is very important. At least the impact analysis should be done, based on which we can go to the next step, which is the planning. And so the planning and change management is going to be a important aspect, again, as I said, because we have to plan on which profile option should we go ahead and enable first, and how should we move ahead with. And then we will do it on non-prod environment first, test it thoroughly end to end, and do it on non-prod environment. So I would for sure recommend everyone to go ahead and let's start working on this. It it and it is just to give you some background. It is not rocket science. We have done this multiple times. As I said, moving from classic to responsive UI was again a task, and we did accomplish, you and us together, right? So we would for sure do this again as well. So so yeah, having said that, that is what my 2 cents would be on this. However, we have 3 more minutes to see if you have any questions. Wait. And if you don't, please feel free to drop, and please join our remaining 2 sessions that we're going to have tomorrow and day after. It is for talent learn for tomorrow. And then the after that, we're going to cover the ORC, benefits, compensation, and help desk. So please register for those if you have not registered it already. for whom you have registered. Thank you. And thanks for the participation, and thanks for your lovely questions and the answers and the responses that we have received on the poll. So thank you very much. Uh, yeah, let me share the link to register as well with the event details. Just give me a second, okay? I'll put it on the chat so that everyone can attend it. I'm putting in the chat the registration links for the other events, the remaining events. Please go ahead and register this. Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much for the participation. See you soon tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.